Greetings builders, Daniel here and welcome back to another best build selection. This is the video where I bring 3 selected builds for a specific topic, and today's team is for those players who like to make things personal. I'm talking about the melee builds, and if you like any of those you can find links for the PoE and complete guide in the video description. The first build of our selection is the amazing Super Cyclone Slayer with the Duelist class. This build turns you into a walking blender with a huge area of effect, damage, speed, and now even instant reach. To list the pros of this build, I would start with its clear speed. It's just amazing to be always moving and massacring all the poor enemies on the way. The boss damage is also amazing. Once the build is done, you are going to kill even the biggest bosses in seconds. Above all of that, this build is also very simple to put together. It doesn't need any mandatory unique item. Now to list the cons, I would point a few important issues and I'd like to ask you to pay close attention here. You see, this build has a great survivability once it's done, but when you're leveling your character you need to pace your progression because you're always very close to enemies. If you are not prepared, you are going to die. So take the extra time to pick up a few more levels before progressing to a high tier content. Another useful tip about your survivability is how to deal with stuns. On this build you get stun immunity with cluster jewels, but not everyone can afford them right away. In that case, while you don't have your cluster jewels, do this simple trick of picking those evasion nodes and this mastery. Believe me, it helps a lot.
As for budget, you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps you need to invest around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas I recommend investing around 6 divines.
Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. For clear speed I would give it 10 out of 10. Cyclone never stops moving and you can farm your maps without needing to stop for casting or anything like that. It's just awesome and very satisfying. The boss damage is great and deserves 9 out of 10. Prepare yourself to destroy even the biggest bosses in just a few seconds. Now for the survivability, I'd only give 8 out of 10. But don't get me wrong, this build still has over 80,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion, spell suppression and instant life reach. I just took the 2 points out because you're always very close to enemies, which puts you in a vulnerable position. Next, let's jump into this melee player's dream, the Boneshare Juggernaut with the Marauder class. This build is perfect for the melee enthusiasts out there. Boneshare hits enemies so hard that it hurts your own character, accumulating trauma stacks. For each trauma you're going to deal and take more damage. That's why it's important to gather both attack speed and armor to stack many traumas and sustain their damage. To list the pros of this build, I would start with its survivability. Even though you deal damage to yourself, this build has so much armor that you won't feel a thing. Now because of that you might think that this build had to sacrifice speed or boss damage. But no, it is still super fast and can kill guardians in just a few seconds. Now to list the cons, the first thing that comes to my mind is that you need to keep an eye on your accuracy. This is because we use the Keystone Precise technique that grants 40% more damage if your accuracy is bigger than your life. As for budget, this build is cheap. You can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 60 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps I recommend investing around 120 chaos, and for easily completing our atlas I recommend investing around 4 divines. For clear speed I'll give it 9 out of 10. Boneshare also creates a big pulse of damage when stunning enemies. That means that a single blow can kill an entire pack of monsters. Other than that you stack a lot of attack speed that causes your lip slam to almost teleport you through the map. The boss damage is also great and deserves 9 out of 10. Using Berserker bosses causes you to accumulate a lot of trauma stacks and deal huge amounts of damage. For the survivability, this build is surely a 10 out of 10, and I would even like to say 20 out of 10 if I could. This build achieves almost 200,000 armor and over 83% of all elemental resistances. All of that combined with the Juggernaut Ascendancy grant this character almost 500,000 effective HP. Yes, it's crazy. Finally we have the incredible Flicker Strike Raider with the Ranger class. This is the kind of build where you can have it all. It easily achieves over 10 million DPS, it's super tanky, and as you can see on the gameplay, ultra fast. To list the pros of this build, I'll have to pretty much repeat what I just said. This is one of the most well balanced builds I've ever played. It has super speed, damage and survivability. It also has a satisfying gameplay with explosions, and let's face it, Flicker Strike is just super cool. Now to list the cons, I'd start saying that this build isn't cheap. You need some mandatory unique and rare items that will exceed the price of one Divine Orb. Another issue is that you have little control over your character. This might be a problem on bosses like Queen Atziri and the Shaper, where you need to know which clone to attack and mind your position. Getting to the budget, this build is expensive and not a starter. You need at least 6 Divine Orbs to put it all together. You need 3 mandatory unique items for this build. The first is the Fahul's Fur body armor, which guarantees that you always have your full frenzy charges up. Next, we also need a Yoke of Suffering amulet that causes all of our elemental damage to be able to shock enemies, causing them to take even more damage from every source. Finally, we need the Perseverance belt that turns tankiness into damage. It does that, granting 1% increased damage for every 200 of the lowest between armor and evasion. Good thing that this build counts with over 30,000 of each. For clear speed, this build is surely a 10 out of 10, and I didn't even need to tell you that. Check out this gameplay, this is some serious anime swordsman stuff. The boss damage is also great, especially when you can use your Berserker skill. As you can see, it kills guardians in less than 2 seconds, but I will only give it 9 out of 10 because this damage is reduced on pinnacle bosses when it's harder to stack our rage. For the survivability, I will also give it 9 out of 10. This build has almost 200,000 effective HP, because of high armor, high evasion, 100% spell suppression, over 30% chance to block, and high chance to avoid elemental ailments. I just took one point out because it has low life regeneration, making it vulnerable to poison. And that's it guys, what did you think about those super strong melee builds? Please take a second to tell me in the comments and leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day, and don't forget to keep building!